Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince White. The chapter begins. A blinding eruption of energy fractures the battlefield, sending waves of crackling light scattering through the crumbled stone. Standing tall in the crimson glow is a mysterious new figure, her presence shrouded in intensity, her long hair illuminated by the swirling red aura that pulses violently around her. Her pointed ears twitching slightly as her gaze narrows on the chaos erupting before her. Something in her posture radiates sovereignty, power rooted in something ancient. Her voice cuts through the storm, calm yet demanding. "Who summoned me?" Her words hang in the air, thick with suspicion and latent fury. She gazes ahead, eyes now glowing, as a flicker of confusion crosses her brow. Is this the work of a demon who's after my life? From afar, a shockwave ripples the smoke as Brocky lunges forward, cleaving through the dust and rubble, locked in brutal combat. The woman's sharp eyes widen, surprise replacing wariness. She whispers, puzzled, "Why is there a shadow soldier here?" Suddenly, the sky bursts into a spiral of clashing lights. A radiant golden figure, winged and swift, dives from above like a thunderbolt, striking with lethal precision. A fierce melee explodes in the blink of an eye, blades slashing through the air, fists crashing with sonic booms. Sparks fly as a flurry of attacks rain down on their battle. Suho, eyes sharp, face determined, lashes out at his monstrous opponent. As dust erupts, Suho breaks through with a forceful dash, fist clenched tight, eyes locked on his next target. With this, he growls, voice low and resolute as he launches himself forward. It'll be one down. A surge of violet electricity dances across Suho's eyes as they narrow with focus. His perception sharpening, the battlefield locked in his sight. The storm of chaos crackles louder as the ground shatters beneath the weight of power. Suho rockets forward, cloaked in arcane lightning. The other lunges forward, feral and hungry, but Suho counters. Landing hard, his boots skid against fractured stone. The echo of another snarl cuts through the haze, followed by a shiver in his spine. The enemy's presence looms again, but this time, not alone. "Arg!" He growls through clenched teeth as the pain of resistance strikes. His mind tightens. Another presence, interfering. The combination of these two demons, fast, relentless, coordinated, is proving overwhelming. The monster hears a voice behind him. "Youngest, be careful." The demon glances briefly at the armored figure, nodding. "Thanks, but time is short." A cold realization flickers within him. If this fight drags on much longer, he'll burn through all of Gray's mana. The possession won't last forever. Even Brocky, once mighty, now a weakened echo of his past as a shadow soldier, is barely holding one at bay. They're relentless. His instincts scream at him. He needs to split them up. He needs to change the flow. But how? The violet-haired demon lands gracefully before him, her aura pulsing like an open challenge. She speaks, her tone cold, precise. "Let me ask you this." And in that moment, time slows. Suho's expression doesn't shift, but his mind sharpens. The question hangs between them, framed in frost and lightning. The air was heavy with mana and steel as the mysterious female knight emerged from the dust and shadows. Her steps, though slightly unsteady, bore determination as her sharp eyes locked forward. Her voice, though weathered with fatigue, cut through the silence like a blade. "Where is Mr. Sung Jinwoo?" Her question rippled through the battlefield, drawing startled gazes. The cloak of darkness behind her shimmered, and Suho's eyes narrowed in disbelief. A wounded female knight, and she's asking for father? Baru, in his spectral wisp form, hovered beside Suho, his voice low with awe and confusion. Where did she appear from? Then, as the knight's eyes met Baru's glowing form, a flash of recognition lit up her face. Her breath hitched. That voice, her tone cracked, a blend of hope and heartbreak. "Are you, Baru?" The moment of reunion shattered the grim tension. Her hands shot out instinctively, clasping the wispy projection of the former Ant King. "Yeah, you're Baru. Where's your body? I'm so happy to see you." Joy flooded her expression, brushing away the weariness of battle, if only for a heartbeat. But the moment was fleeting. "Where's Mr. Sung Jinwoo?" she pressed again, her urgency sharpened by the presence of an unfamiliar figure. Her gaze shifted towards Suho. "Who's the male human that's with you?" Baru hesitated. It's a long story." Across the battlefield, demon generals murmured in unison, their eerie voices blending with the hiss of swirling energy. "Offering. Demon. Summit." Their eyes narrowed on the woman. "Yes, but for some reason, she seems to know our enemies. It'd be troublesome if she chooses to join their side." As the light in her eyes dimmed gently into calmness, she whispered with a warm smile. "To think I'd meet Baru here. He made it. I can now rest easy." Relief melted across her face like the first sunlight after a storm. But Baru's voice broke the moment. "This is great timing. We'll continue our reunion later," he said calmly, eyes never leaving the battlefield. "So take care of those demons while you're here." The night froze, blinking. What? The reunion was over. The war had not paused for joy. The demons didn't hesitate. With merciless focus, one lunged through the chaos, eyes locked onto the wounded knight standing between them and disruption. A single goal burned in their minds: eliminate her first. Their blades sought her blood. She was weakened, slowed, and alone, or so they thought. From the distance, Suho's gaze narrowed. The flurry of movement and the rising threat made his instincts scream, but more than that, something about her felt familiar. "I remember her from somewhere." His thoughts churned as Baru floated by his side, his sharp tones slicing through the tension. "She's injured," Suho observed, his voice lower but steady. "Can she fight them alone?" Baru didn't blink. Low-ranking demons are no match for her. Baru's gaze sharpened. "Her name is Essel. When our Lord destroyed the demon world," Baru explained, "her household was the only noble line spared. She's the eldest daughter of the later household. In human terms, her strength matches that of an S-rank hunter." Suho's breath caught for a moment. S-rank. That realization washed over him with electric clarity. His heart pounded, not with fear, but anticipation. "That means I can witness how an S-rank fights." Before he could linger on the thought, a thunderous blast ripped through the air. Essel's body jolted back as the demons attacked in unison, their claws crashing against her defenses. Her scream pierced the battlefield. Suho and Baru watched in stunned silence as the impact hurled her across the ground. Dust clouded her landing. "What?" Suho muttered, disbelief coating his words. Baru's jaw clenched, alarm flashing in his glowing eyes as he surged forward. Essel lay crumpled on the ground, her armor cracked, her breath ragged. Baru's voice cracked, not with anger, but disappointment. How have you become so weak?" Even the amount of mana radiating from her, once dense and overwhelming, was now barely detectable. Essel's voice was quiet, almost ashamed. Something did happen." She struggled to lift herself, voice trembling with weight. "About half a year ago, most of the demons in the demon world started a rebellion. The memory crashed down in violent hues, towering beasts, fire, and chaos. We fought as best we could, but our household wasn't able to quell the rebellion by ourselves." The vision burned into the air. Her alone, blades drawn, surrounded by monstrous hordes. "I was able to survive thanks to the rest of my household members, but my blood was taken while I was running away, and I lost my powers." Suho glanced to Baru. "Baru, can you lend me some of your power?" "That's a waste of my mana," Baru grumbled, arms crossed. "You're so mean," Essel replied. Suho sighed. "Now I have two people that have lost their powers." But the enemy had already begun to whisper. "My brothers, did you hear that?" Towering, hulking, and twisted by bloodlust, the demon sneered. "I couldn't recognize her because she's gotten weak, but to think there's a survivor from the later household." He leaned forward, claws twitching. "This is a chance for us to become stronger by consuming the blood of a demon noble." Suho's jaw clenched. "If I could fight them one-on-one, I could easily take care of at least one of them." Baru's eyes lit with cunning. "Oh, I have a good idea for that. The time has come to use the ability I got back after recovering some mana." In the next instant, a blinding surge of crimson flared to life. Baru's power surged toward the Essel. "Alert! Baru has used the skill, Harsh Orders." A burning red aura enveloped Essel as the notification echoed through the system. "Alert! The skill, harsh orders, has increased Essel's stats by 50%. But the blessing came with a cost. Alert. The skill, harsh orders, has put the curse of insanity onto Essel as a side effect. And as her figure rose, the battlefield trembled in anticipation. The demon noble had returned to the fight, but at what price? As the crimson aura of madness swirls around her, Essel lunges forward like a predator unleashed, Baru's amplified power blazing through her body in chaotic surges. With wild, frenzied eyes, she howls across the battlefield, her voice torn between agony and rage. From behind, Baru casually throws his hand forward, commanding with biting sarcasm, "Go forth, useless female demon." Lightning bursts as her feet crash against the ground, and Essel launches herself into the fray, teeth bared and blades swinging violently. But from across the battlefield, Suho watches with a calm, calculating gaze. His head tilts slightly. Despite the explosive entry, Essel looks pitiful, ragged, and unstable. Yet he understands the threat. If this skirmish turns into a one-on-one fight, it might just shift the tide. The clash begins with a violent crackle of energy. Shadows and flame twist through the air as the giant demon exchanges blows with Broki's claws, the air slicing apart around them. Essel darts in between, a blur of red lightning, her weapon colliding with demonic flesh as her screams echo with torment. Then, the demon struck. His claws sank into her side, drawing blood, his voice cold and victorious. Demon noble, blood obtained. Essel's mouth gaped open in shock and pain, her breath stolen, her body thrown like a rag doll. The blow tore through her momentum, and with a vicious snarl, the demon reeled back for the next strike. But he never saw the counter coming. A foot slammed down. In a single explosive step, he vanished. And in the blink of an eye, he reappeared behind the demon in perfect silence. And strike again with amazing speed. The impact was devastating. Suho strikes again with brutal force, a burst of mana erupting like a nova. The demon's body twisted grotesquely before crumpling to the floor, smoke rising from the ruin he left behind. Then, the final blow landed. Suho's blade slices through the demon. After that, alert! You have killed a low-ranked demon. Alert! You have leveled up. He stood motionless for a heartbeat, then exhaled. One down for now. Another alert shimmered in front of him. Alert! Vulcan's horn has devoured the demon's soul. Effect: devoured demon souls, 1. Effect: destructive urges increases physical damage by 31%. A faint smirk curled at the edge of Suho's lips as his gauntlet pulsed with dark red energy. The power of the consumed soul now his to wield. But across the battlefield, chaos still reigned. The remaining demon brothers stood stunned. One of them growled through clenched fangs, his voice thick with disbelief. The youngest is dead. His claws tightened, eyes darting to the blur of violet tearing through the battlefield. Damn it, I need to do something about this crazy woman. But Essel was already upon him, her face twisted by rage, insanity, and something primal. Her red eyes burned with violence, and her scream cut through the storm like a banshee's wail. A system alert flashed into the battlefield haze. Essel's power-enhanced frenzy had reached its limit. Her body trembled, breath ragged, mana drained completely. The effect of Baru's harsh orders faded, leaving only exhaustion behind. She collapsed to her knees, barely upright, as her vision blurred and consciousness wavered. Then, the demon's eyes widened in shock, unable to react in time as its life was extinguished. A sharp voice echoed in the air. What? But it was already too late. With a thunderous burst, Suho materialized behind the next target, silent and swift as death itself. His clawed hand pierced straight through the demon's chest. 2 down, as he crushed the demon. A system notification rang out again. He had killed another low-ranked demon. Vulcan's horn shimmered crimson, having devoured its second soul. But it was not enough. With a crash of speed and pressure, the demon landed a brutal punch into Suho's chest, forcing it to stagger backward. His breath hitched. His crimson eyes narrowed. Silence. Then, a low growl of rage. His massive frame loomed over the scene as his bloodlust swelled once more. The remaining demon observed the battleground from above. From this vantage, the truth was clear. They were losing. We're the ones with the numbers disadvantage now, he growled bitterly. Those useless bastards. But as his fury flared, he clenched his claws tighter. However, it's not over yet. From the shadows, Brokey emerged. His aura boiled and warped into a monstrous form. Across the battlefield, one of the shadow beasts crashes toward the wall with a thunderous impact. Brokey's eyes widened, caught off demon by the sudden, violent eruption. Before he can react, the hulking figure of the demon surges toward the Essel like a storm, crimson lightning trailing behind its horns, each movement a declaration of fury. Below him, Essel stands defiant, her body tensed, her breath ragged, but her gaze unshaken. The demon's thoughts sharpen into singular resolve. I need to get stronger, he thinks, by consuming the blood of the demon noble. Yet just as his claws stretch forward, so close to his goal, a figure intercepts the air. Not a chance. The voice cuts clean through the chaos, and a figure crashes down from above with overwhelming force. It's Suho. His strike drives straight into the demon, halting its descent and cracking the momentum with a deafening impact. The demon's body twists under the blow, fragments of obsidian-like armor flying off from the hit, scattering into the shadows. Suho lands without looking back, eyes glowing faintly with quiet arrogance. Leave something for me to absorb, he mutters, a smirk creeping at the edge of his lips. Then, from the depths of the battlefield, a pulse reverberates, a chilling, monstrous presence stirs. Brokey. The name drips with familiarity and dread. Eyes like smoldering coals blink open, and the maw of a beast unfurls, revealing rows of jagged teeth etched with lightning. The monster towers into view, muscles rippling with fury and blue light crawling like veins across its skin. Then he landed the final blow. Essel's body collapses forward, barely held up by trembling arms. Her breathing is ragged, her vision blurred. The sharp pulse of pain radiating through her chest is almost enough to drown out the sound of shattering rubble behind her. A familiar voice calls out through the settling dust, smooth and direct. Are you alive? Baru hovers in the air, his glowing form flickering with loyal curiosity. Straining, Essel groans and lifts her head just enough to respond with a weary pout. Baru, you're so mean. But even in her exhaustion, confusion blooms in her eyes. A deeper thought creeps in, her lips parting slightly in disbelief. More importantly, how? I can't believe there's another human, other than Mr. Sung Jin-woo, who can use shadow soldiers. Her eyes flicker toward the figure still standing in the center of the battlefield. Her voice drops into a whisper, carried by a pulse of uncertainty. Who is he? Baru's eyes narrow with clarity, his tone cutting with insight. You're not loyal enough, so you can't recognize him. He drifts closer, his wings beating in the aftermath of war. Try your best to remember. A beat of silence hangs in the air. Then, you already know who the probable candidate might be. Essel turns, her eyes slowly rising, meeting the form of the armored warrior with long black hair and a haunting resemblance to a man she once revered. Her breath catches. Could he be? A flurry of system alerts erupts across the space around Suho. Alert! You have killed a low-ranked demon. Alert! Vulcan's horn has devoured the demon's soul. Alert! You have leveled up. Alert! You are above level 20. You are now able to use Store Purchase. A faint smile touches his lips as the interface materializes before his eyes. Oh, I can use the store now. In the shadows nearby, Essel stares at him, her lips barely moving, her thoughts loud with realization. It really is him. Her mind rushes back to the memories she had sealed away, of the man who once stood at the center of it all. Her voice trembles with reverence. He's the young monarch. The battlefield's dust had barely settled when the girl, trembling with exhaustion, stared at the Suho. Her voice broke the silence, soft, breathless, but resolute. He's the young monarch. The words hung in the air, and Suho blinked, confusion flashing across his face as he looked back at her. A question mark etched itself into his mind. Did she just call me young monarch? The girl stepped forward, her voice gentle and full of awe. I couldn't recognize you, because you look so different now. Her crimson eyes shimmered with memory as she added, You look exactly like Mr. Sung Jin-woo. The name triggered a jolt through Suho's chest, but before he could speak, her strength finally gave out. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed to the floor with a thud. Suho rushed forward, concerned. Baru, you know her, right? Is she all right? Baru floated down and examined her calmly. It seems she simply exhausted her energy and fainted. She doesn't look dead, so I don't think you need to be worried. Suho exhaled softly, relieved. That's good to hear. I feel somewhat sorry for her. Behind him, the other survivors stirred, groaning, dazed, and blinking in disbelief that they were still alive. One clutched his side, another leaned heavily against the cracked wall, while others simply sat in stunned silence. Suho turned to face them. His presence, calm yet commanding, brought relief to their expressions. Then came the sound he'd been waiting for. Alert! Quest: Rescue the survivors has been completed. Number of rescued survivors: 7. Alert! The quest reward has arrived. He glanced down at his hand as the reward notification blinked into view. I'm glad that all 7 survivors are safe. He pressed his palm forward. Confirm the reward. Quest reward. The following rewards have been prepared. Reward 1. Ability points +3. Reward 2. 700 gold. Alert! You have obtained 700 gold. The system's glow faded from his vision, but in Suho's heart, the weight of what just unfolded had only deepened. A quiet realization flickered across Suho's eyes as the words 700 gold echoed in his mind. His gaze sharpened, calculating. This system, strange and yet so eerily systematic, was granting him currency now. With a small breath, he whispered, gold. And without hesitation, he commanded the interface. Open store window. A digital shimmer danced in the air before him as the store interface unfurled, glowing with the same mystical presence that cloaked this world. His eyes scanned the list: weapons, armor, scrolls, and at the bottom, potions. The faint glint of understanding passed through him. As he examined the display, Suho thought to himself, as I thought, I can use gold to buy the items in the store window. Dozens of options were neatly arranged, categorized. There are potions too. Looks like there's quite a variety of items available. The moment stirred a memory, a younger version of himself, receiving pocket money after completing chores. To complete quests and gain money. A soft smile curved at the edge of his lips. I'm reminded of my younger days when I was given pocket money after I finished the errands I was asked to do. His eyes narrowed slightly, amusement in his expression. He looked down at the floating interface beside him, surrounded by drifting dust and ethereal glow. Come to think of it, Dad gave me this system. After all, he straightened his posture, holding the tablet-like interface casually in one hand, and looked up at the broken ceiling above him. A voice left him in a whisper, almost playful. Dad, thanks for the pocket money. A faint groan caught his attention. His gaze snapped back to the injured girl lying unconscious nearby. Her breathing was shallow, body barely stirred. He approached and examined her condition with concern, holding a glowing, pink-tinted vial in his hand. The label shimmered as the system displayed the item's info. Item: low-grade healing potion. Rank for usage: E. Type: consumable. A potion that heals HP. You will slowly recover HP over time if you drink it. While you can keep it in your inventory, you cannot share it with other people. He blinked. I can't share this with another person? A pause. Then his eyes narrowed thoughtfully, turning the potion in his grip. Could I feed it to her then? Without waiting, he kneeled beside her, gently placing a hand behind her head. The vial tilted, its contents sliding toward the Essel's lips. A soft stream of crimson liquid began to pour from the vial, glistening like melted rubies as it touched her pale lips. Her body remained still, but the moment hung with quiet hope. Under the shimmering pulse of recovery magic, Essel's breathing steadied, her wounds slowly mending as the healing potion took effect. Suho stood beside her with a quiet gaze, observing the gentle rise and fall of her chest as life returned. Beside him, Baru's voice cut through the air with sharp skepticism, laced with concern masked as discipline, questioning the use of gold on what he deemed a useless demon. Baru murmured with admiration, calling Suho generous, his tone filled with devotion. But Suho remained grounded. His expression didn't change, though his voice softened. He couldn't leave her here. Whatever her origins or allegiances, she had bowed before him. She had called him young monarch. That alone meant she recognized something in him. Without hesitation, he instructed Baru to carry her to the shadow dungeon. Then, turning to Brokey, he gave another order, one wrapped in a tactician's resolve: gather the corpses of the demons that had been defeated. A vortex opened behind them, swirling with raw power and promise. Brokey moved ahead, dragging the broken demon bodies through the glowing portal as ordered. Suho remained behind, gripping the sword in his hand. He still had something left to do. Hovering behind him, Baru's voice echoed again, asking if he would not follow them into the dungeon. But Suho's answer was simple and firm. There was unfinished business here. He turned and walked through the ravaged remains of the battlefield, his steps carrying him toward two grotesque, charred figures, chained upright, their bodies cloaked in flames that licked across their skin but never consumed. Suho stared at them, his heart tightening. "Mistborn," he murmured. "I thought this when I first saw them, but they look like they're in pain, like they're engulfed in flames." He clenched the sword tightly, the storm swirling in his heart echoing through the weapon's weight. "I'm sorry," he whispered, stepping forward. "This is the only way I can help." With a single breath, he swung his sword in a sweeping arc, channeling his power. "You have used the skill, Storm Slash." The blade ripped through the air like a tempest. The chained figures were consumed in a storm of energy and silence. A final mercy. Above, in the world of sunlight and dust, a foot stepped out of the ruined subway tunnel. Rubble cracked beneath its weight. The camera panned upward, broad shoulders, black slacks, untucked shirt, and eyes like blades scanning the station with precision. Agents of the Hunter Association gathered outside, their uniforms dirted, their expressions stern. They had arrived to survey the aftermath of something beyond their understanding. A suited investigator gave his report. "We discovered corpses of thorn lizards and mistborn within the field-type dungeon. But based on the injuries of the dead hunters, it doesn't look like they were killed by monsters." Images of mangled bodies lined the wall behind him. "We also discovered a partially destroyed underground room with sword marks." The commanding officer frowned. There was something else besides the monsters. Just then, a voice piped in. "I'll take my leave now." The officer turned. "Wait, are you Mr. Mdogyen? The one who reported this incident?" Dogyun stopped mid-step. "Yes. There's a record of someone named Sung Suho in the collection team. Do you know him?" Dogyun smiled sheepishly. "Oh, he's a junior of mine. Came to help me." "Where is he now?" Dogyun hesitated. "Oh, The silence was telling, but he quickly masked it with a light chuckle. "After we came out of the dungeon, he went to a safe place to hide." He scratched his head. "It's embarrassing, but there's nothing E-rank hunters like us can do other than ask the Hunter Association for help." The officer gave a rare nod. "You did great." He placed a hand on Dogyun's shoulder. "You made the best decision an E-rank hunter could, just as the manual instructed." The team leader barked out orders. "I want all of you to keep looking. Don't miss any traces." Dogyun sighed in relief as the officer walked past. But inwardly, his thoughts churned. The person who saved the hunters, the one who cleared the dungeon. It had to be Suho, right? The wind stirred as Dogyun's thoughts quietly echoed beneath the bustle of the recovering streets. He gazed at the clouds, uncertainty wrinkling his brow. Though Suho had kept his rank hidden, there was no malice in his aura, only a strange, unfathomable calm. Whatever secrets Suho carried, Dogyun believed they weren't born from selfishness. He would wait. He would trust. He would believe in the boy who'd saved them all. Far away, in the heart of a ruined district now overrun with overgrowth and scorched buildings, a soft pulse of demonic energy trembled in the air. The night loomed heavy over the wreckage, shadows slipping like oil across the fractured ground. Within the heart of the rubble, Essel sat silently, her violet eyes dim with exhaustion. Her voice was calm, reflecting on all that had occurred, on the invasion that had once threatened to collapse dimensions. She spoke solemnly to the floating shadow wraith beside her. The Shadow Monarch had once departed this world to stop the invasion of the outer world. Baru spoke. "A command had been given from our liege. To send me to Earth, to break the young monarch's seal." But the young monarch had already surpassed expectations. Suho had broken the seal himself, long before any help arrived. Now free, Suho stepped forward, locking eyes with Essel. His tone was unsure, searching. Essel, right? Have we met before? Her gaze softened in recognition. Yes, we met before, in the tutorial you went through. You said you'd remember me. Have you forgotten me? His brows tightened. For some reason, that time in the tutorial was nothing more than a fog. Faces and voices blurred like fading dreams. He scratched his head awkwardly, until, like a bolt of lightning, a memory struck him. Her face, her aura, the moment of surrender. Oh, he gasped, a realization flashing behind his eyes. Suho muttered with dry sarcasm. The one who surrendered the moment she saw me. Essel shrank under the judgment, unable to deny it. Baru's words continued with biting amusement. You did such a half-assed job when you were supposed to be testing him. Her silence admitted guilt. Then Baru's tone shifted as curiosity overtook scorn. That aside, why have you become so weak? What happened in the demon realm? The question hung between them like a blade midair. Essel's eyes lowered, and her voice trembled with the weight of memories yet to be spoken. About that, Essel's voice turned solemn, her gaze softening with the weight of the past. She began to explain, not just to Suho, but perhaps to herself as well. The burden she carried was not just one of failure, it was one of legacy. She recalled Baru's account, how the Shadow Monarch had vanquished the Demon King and brought down the nobility that once reigned. In that power vacuum, the later household rose to prominence, the #1 family in the demon realm. They waited in loyalty and silence, hoping the Shadow Monarch would one day summon them to his side again from the dark halls of the demon castle. But decades passed. The silence from the monarch continued, and so they lived quietly, peacefully. Until, half a year ago, everything changed. A disturbance began to ripple through the demon realm. It started small, rumors of a mysterious substance called stardust, a forbidden magic amplification stimulant. Its effects were subtle but devastating. Distributed secretly among the demons, it sparked a dark evolution. The balance of power began to tilt. Suho's eyes sharpened, the name echoing in his mind, Stardust. He remembered now. The demons he fought, in whispers and panic, had mentioned it. Images flashed before him, those twisted, empowered foes. Their eyes burning with unnatural rage, their bodies surging with unstable magic. Essel continued. Stardust had very little effect on high-ranking demons, but for the low-ranked ones, it was transformative. It gave them the strength to rise without earning it. It made them reckless, united. With new power and purpose, they began to converge under one cause: to overthrow the Shadow Monarch's legacy. Essel's voice dropped to a whisper as she recounted the betrayal. The very demons her household once protected turned on them. They branded the later name with treachery and rose against them in open rebellion. The rebellion soon exploded into a brutal war. The later household, once proud defenders of the demon castle, took up arms to protect what had been entrusted to them. They fought bravely, desperately, but the sheer number and ferocity of the Stardust-empowered demons was too much. After half a year of ceaseless bloodshed, they fell. Essel lowered her head, the pain bleeding through her voice. The war had stripped them of their pride, but what came next was worse. The victors did not stop at victory. They turned to horror. Her people, captured, chained, and drained of blood. The pure blood of noble demons, harvested as fuel for power-hungry traitors. They drank it, bathed in it, grew stronger with every stolen drop. Essel's hands clenched tightly as she confessed the final blow. Her father, her family, all sacrificed in the name of twisted power. Her strength, once unrivaled, now reduced to a flicker of what it had been. Even she had been drained, physically, spiritually, until only a shadow remained. Essel sat beneath the starlit sky, her figure framed by moonlight and quiet grief. Her hands, once calloused from battle, now trembled with the weight of survival. She muttered through clenched teeth, voice cracking like dry leaves in the wind. I'm pathetic. Everyone has died, but I alone survived. Her fingers curled tightly, the sharp edges of her armor biting into her palms. Guilt, emptiness, failure. It all pressed against her chest. The silence around her was unbearable. Now that the demon realm has been stolen, I don't know what I should tell the Shadow Monarch. Her head bowed low, tears threatening to spill over. Then, without warning, a voice pierced through the dusk, quiet, resolute, and warm. You did great. The words stopped time. Essel's eyes widened. She froze, unsure if she'd imagined them. Her lip quivered, and her gaze slowly lifted. I had times, he admitted softly, when I wondered what Dad would do if he were me. The boy who bore his father's legacy took a step forward. No crown on his head, no throne behind him, only purpose in his eyes. You and your household fought with your lives on the line in his absence. His voice held no pity, only respect. So I think that's what he would say to you. Essel stared up at him, breath hitched. I'm also thankful to you for fighting for Dad until the very end. I'll help you the best I can. His words weren't hollow. They held the promise of renewal, of hope. Let's revive the later household together, Essel. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only silence, then a faint tremble. Her shoulders shook, and tears slipped free, not of sorrow this time, but of relief. Memories surged. The past, the pain, the weight of her people's blood, it all pressed down. But now, someone had come to share that burden. The image of Suho flickered in her mind, a young monarch stepping into the shadow of his father's legend. Didn't you say the hierarchy competition between the demon households was intense? He had once asked her that, and now he answered it himself. I'll help the later household become number one. That vow lit something within her. Her trembling lips curved into the faintest smile. Eyes shimmering, she looked up. Young monarch. A chime rang out. Alert! The last survivor of the pureblood demon nobles, Essel, expresses her thanks to you. She stood taller now, shoulders squared. My household's name is later. Her voice rang clear, no longer uncertain, no longer alone. Another alert surfaced, as if the system itself acknowledged the bond forged in fire. Alert! Will you recruit the descendant of White Flames as your teammate? Yes or no? The choice was clear. A monarch had risen, and the later flame was about to burn again. As the windows faded into translucent stillness, Suho glanced at Essel across the ruined courtyard. Her violet eyes looked up in stunned silence, the burden of her fallen house still fresh in her gaze. But she stood tall before him, quiet, waiting. Suho's voice echoed within his mind as the realization struck like lightning through clouded thoughts. Essel is the second descendant of a monarch. Across from him, Essel tilted her head, confused by his sudden stare. Young monarch? She asked cautiously, unaware of the epiphany blooming in his heart. The system repeated its message, almost as if affirming his suspicion. The last survivor of the pureblood demon nobles, Essel, expresses her thanks to you. The thought echoed louder now. Could it be because she's the only pureblood demon noble that survived? Suho didn't hesitate. His lips moved with resolve. Yes. The system acknowledged him immediately. The descendant of White Flames is now your teammate. And then, because of your bond with the descendant of White Flames, a bond skill has appeared. A new window flared into view. Bond skill, Demon Blast, charge amount, 0%. Receive the energy of the descendant of White Flames and discharge a powerful blast. Essel gasped, looking at her hands in disbelief. What? I suddenly have a status window. The implications shocked her to her core. I didn't know since Gray can't talk to me, but I guess my teammates can see the status window too. Baru turned towards Suho, her voice shaking. Young monarch, could it be? Suho confirmed it again with a calm and steady, yes. The truth struck Essel harder than any blow she had taken on the battlefield. Her breath caught in her throat, red eyes wide with disbelief. Essel has become my teammate as the descendant of White Flames, Suho's inner monologue stated. Essel's heart trembled. I'm the descendant of White Flames? The ruined city echoed with silence as Suho, Essel, and the others stood before a lurking shadow beast. The tall buildings around them bore scars of previous battles, their windows shattered, walls cracked. Now was the perfect time to test their new strength. With a calm but resolute voice, he turned to Essel. Let's try out the new bond skill then. Essel, are you ready? Essel nodded, determination flickering like embers in her violet eyes. Yes, young monarch. And in that moment, a current of blazing red energy surged between them. A system alert blared into Suho's vision. You have used the bond skill, Demon Blast. In the next heartbeat, a whirlwind of flames erupted from Essel's. The energy twisted and spiraled around Essel, then discharged as a blinding inferno, pure white flame laced with power. Suho stumbled slightly, the sheer force overwhelming even him for a moment. Oh! He caught sight of Essel collapsing to her knees, panting heavily. Her energy had been completely drained from channeling the skill. This is Essel's bond skill, he murmured, eyes widening with newfound respect. Essel, he rushed to her side. With a faint, apologetic smile, she looked up. My apologies. I depleted all my energy after using the skill once. Suho shook his head. Don't worry about it. Just rest. Red lightning still danced across his skin, the aftermath of a force far greater than he had expected. He clenched his fist, still humming with power. Just one use consumes all her energy? Just how strong is it? He wondered aloud. As Essel lay catching her breath, Suho stood tall, feeling the lingering warmth of her energy coursing through him. Essel thinks. To think there's a skill where I can send my power to the young monarch. Suho amused. It must be a powerful attack, right? Without hesitation, he punched forward with all the built-up energy. The impact created a shockwave that shattered the stone ground in a wide radius, webbing cracks across the battlefield like glass struck by a hammer. The silence that followed the devastating strike echoed through the hallway like an unfinished sentence. Suho stood with narrowed eyes, his gaze on the faint crack etched into the pavement. Baru hovered beside him, blinking with uncertainty. It didn't feel any different. Suho's voice was quiet, puzzled. He confessed that the bond skill is different compared to Grace. Essel, watching from behind, seemed stunned. That single blast had consumed her entire reserve of power, and this was all it did. She stared at the minimal damage in disbelief, while Suho tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was because the skill's charge was currently at 0%. Without instructions on how to replenish it, its potential remained locked. Just then, Baru floated closer, eyes gleaming with a question. He asked if he could feast on the demon corpses that had been transported to the Shadow Dungeon. Suho declined, explaining he'd intended to use shadow extraction on them first. Baru perked up. Suho hadn't yet tried extracting shadows from demons before. Why not give it a shot now? Extending his hand over the slain corpses, Suho summoned the power once more. Arise. A glow erupted, but the system responded before anything could take form. The mana was corrupted. Shadow extraction had failed. The message struck deep. Even the Shadow Monarch's power couldn't draw shadows from demons with defiled souls. Baru hovered closer, thoughtful. That must have been why the original monarch made contracts instead, like the pact with the later household. Corrupted souls couldn't be turned into soldiers. Suho nodded grimly. There was no salvaging these ones. Baru, you can eat them. The ant soldier lit up in gratitude, but from behind him, Essel sulked, eyes wide and a bit offended. She muttered under her breath. I can't believe they just called me corrupted. That's so mean. Suho knelt down beside Essel, gently offering her a glowing potion, its radiant hue pulsing like a heart full of light in the dark corridor. Here, you'll feel better after drinking this, he said, his voice steady, reassuring. Essel accepted the potion with a faint, grateful smile, her strength barely holding her upright. Thank you. I feel like I'm inconveniencing you. Suho looked at her, thoughtful. Come to think of it, you probably don't have any place to live right now. A pause, then a quiet offer, spoken with certainty. You can use this city area freely. Essel's eyes widened in surprise. She stared at him, overwhelmed by the kindness. Young monarch, you're going that far to help me. In the silent air between them, the system issued a sudden alert. Alert! A part of the Shadow Dungeon has been designated as the White Flames Territory. Alert! The owner of the White Flames Territory has been designated as Essel later. Suho simply smiled, brushing off the weight of what he had done. You're my teammate. Don't fret the details. The warmth between them was interrupted by a sudden shriek, sharp and metallic. Startled, Suho turned toward the sound. What's wrong, Baru? The shadowy ant hovered tensely, its aura flickering in agitation. Young monarch, in the memories of the demons. His voice trembled, then dropped in pitch with urgency. I found a clue about Iterim's apostle. Suho's gaze narrowed, his mind shifting instantly back into focus. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.